You are now listening to a member of the Disney Podcast family. Head over to Disney Podcast Family on Instagram to see all the latest posts for this show and links to other great Disney podcasts.
Melissa Pilgrim is our choice for your next Disney vacation. You can reach her at amagicalpilgrimage@gmail.com. We thank her for her support.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de las puertas.
Here's a wild rhino whistle.
Doors change.
So today on Miles from Main Street, we are live for the first time. Live, and it's not Saturday night.
Good to see you, Mikhailo. How you doing this fine Thursday evening?
I'm doing great. It's a great night for a live.
It sure is. I'm excited for this. I got a new background in the studio. Finally got it up and running. And I'm excited for this. So,
yeah, it should be fun, and we're just gonna try to do our thing. This is our first, like we've said before, this is our first time going live, so we're trying to bring it to you guys live. And if you guys have any questions or comments, or we're doing terrible or we're doing really good, go ahead and comment and let us know, and we'll read your comments. But we've got some fun stuff to talk about. But Brian, I think you have some stuff to talk about first.
Well, yeah, before I even do that, we should probably tell them we're going to be talking about top tips that you would give your worst enemy. And I've seen this come up a little bit on Instagram and in the, viral reels or whatever that I see. But I thought this was a great topic, kind of a reverse idea on what you would tell people. So I'm excited for this one. But as we like to say, go out and share this with a friend. We're on YouTube now. Like and subscribe to the channel over there. And let us know what you are thinking as we're going through this. We have some great ideas of what we would tell our worst enemy. But yeah, make sure you just tell everyone all about us.
Yeah, definitely. So let's jump right into it. So this idea of Disney tips that you would give your worst enemy is kind of like, what's the opposite that like you would do at Disney? And I mean, there's tons of them. There's some like really like generic ones. And there's some like really like detailed ones that kind of get pretty funny. I have my own little list, Brian. I bet you have some stuff planned out. But the first one that I want to bring up is staying off property. And now I say that as somebody who stayed off property before and has had a really great time. But I'm more so saying staying off property and staying at a nice hotel. There are reasons to stay off property. But if you're staying off property at like a fancier hotel that like you're paying like $600 for, unless you like know that you love that hotel, there are some amazing hotels at Disney World that you can pay that much money at and make your Disney World trip so much easier. And a lot of times those $600 hotel rooms are some of the best hotel rooms you can find in Orlando anyways. So that's one tip that I would give my enemy is, you don't have to stay on property. You can just stay off property at a fancy hotel and then just go to Disney. So that's one thing that came to mind when I was thinking about this, because there are reasons to stay off property, money wise and such. You can save a lot of money. But when it comes to staying on property and staying at a fine hotel, Disney has a lot of them. So
they sure do. And staying on property gets you better access to the transportation, and gets you better access just to what's available right in your resort. You don't have to travel as far to go on a break in the afternoon, but it's pretty awesome just telling somebody that I don't like, yeah, stay off property, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I had a good one. Food is always a big one that comes up, and they might hear that you got to go to Casey's Corner, but I tell them, get the hot dog, not the mini corn dogs, the corn dog nuggets. Don't. And I for sure would not tell them to get the cheese sauce that goes with it. So
Yeah, that's
yeah. Go ahead.
That's definitely a good one. Yeah, and I thought about this too about food. It didn't quite make my list, but it's kind of like well, actually, there's a part of food that made my list, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like you could tell somebody like, oh, the food is terrible, like bring your own food. And people say that. People are like, bring your own food to save money, but you can find like super like generic park fare at Disney, and you can also find like some of the best meals I've had personally have been on Disney property. And I'm just talking like best meals in general, like the best food I've ever eaten has been on Disney property. So telling your friends to avoid the food, that would definitely be something that I would tell my enemy to do.
It's only burgers and hot dogs and French fries. It's nothing good.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that. Another one that Paige had brought up, she said, tell them to go to Oga's and order the food.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess actually that's a good kind of like pinpointy one that like gets like, it's like a kind of a deep cut, because you can get a reservation for Oga's, and you might think that it's like a sit down restaurant, but really it's a bar. And I think that's like the only bar type place that you need a reservation for. And so, yeah, telling your friend like, oh yeah, if you want to get dinner, Olga's is really good. that would be a pretty good tip for your enemy. And that brings me into another one of mine, which is food related. And that is to not get dining reservations for anywhere. And this is something that my family used to do. And we used to just like show up. This is like way back in the day where like we didn't even know dining reservations existed. And we would just like walk up to like fancy looking restaurants and be like, oh, we'd like to eat here. And they'd be like, do you have a reservation? And we'd be like, no. And they would like laugh at us because you need a reservation. And so, yeah, that would be another tip is like, you don't need dining reservations. Like just try to do a walk up or something like that, which you can do, but like, it's pretty difficult to like eat where you want to eat without dining reservations.
It really is. But back in the day, as I say, because I'm old, we were able to walk right up to the Le Cellier and just walked right in. We didn't, back in 2002, I didn't have to have reservations anywhere. So that was terrific.
Yeah. And that could also bring up another point, which is, like, don't plan anything, just show up without a plan. And I think that's kind of like one of those like really like large scale tips that you could give somebody that is your enemy. Is like, oh yeah, you don't plan, just show up, because like nowadays you definitely need to plan, and that kind of like runs around with like dining reservations and stuff like that. So
I mean, that does fit with some people. People just don't want to have to plan to go on vacation. But, sometimes you just need to do that. And to plan for Disney, you have to. And so when you tell them not to plan, that might be right what they want, So maybe know your enemy a little bit so you can hit them on the right side. oh, you don't want to do that. You're going to have to plan everything. And then, I don't know, maybe they would then try to plan and you can plan for them to in bad spots. I've said plan many times.
I feel like there's a certain level of planning. Like we would hear about certain people that would show up to Disney and just like, oh yeah, we'd like to buy tickets to Disney World. It's like, you haven't bought tickets yet? So like, I definitely feel like that kind of vacationer is not that like that's dying out, because it definitely still happens, but it's like, you can't have the kind of experience you're supposed to have by just like showing up to Disney and being like, I'd like a ticket, please, and like not and having like absolutely no planning whatsoever. I just feel like that isn't really well, it's definitely still happening, but like I just feel like that's kind of dying out a little bit. Like you definitely have to have some sort of plan when you show up, especially if you're going to be going for several days. But then again, you did say like there are those types of people that like they have a loose plan, but they try to show up to like have fun and like relax, rather than kind of like running around and trying to do everything.
Right.
So yeah, it just kind of depends on who you're talking to.
I feel like those are the types that are going to wait in line a lot longer as well. Oh, well, I want to ride this and it's a 3-hour wait. I just guess I'll just have to get in this line.
I get in line, I guess.
Yeah. And that kind of brings me to the next thing. I would tell people, or I would tell my worst enemy, I would tell them there's no need to rope drop. You're going to have a great time. Just show up around 10 or 11 and head right over to Mine Train. The line is as short as it's going to be at that point.
Yeah. That's a good one. And I had one kind of like this. What was my verbiage that I used? It was, yeah. So I was going to tell my worst enemy to like, oh, wake up early, but not too early. And that's because you and I have kind of noticed this a little bit when we go together, and that's people are getting more Disney literate for like what they need to do. So everyone's waking up early, but there's that sweet spot of like when you're waking up and leaving when everybody else is leaving, that you'll like start to hit all of those lines and get backed up. So it's like telling them like, oh, you have to wake, like you said, like you have to wake up early and get to the parks around 10. Even then, you may be missing out on a lot of those people who have become Disney literate and are waiting for park open. Usually when I tell people if they want to wake up early, you got to wake up early, like actually early, not like normal vacation early. Like if you really want to like get there early, like you got to get there like way earlier than probably you're thinking, because everybody else is doing it now.
Yep. Yeah, I would completely agree with that. You know, when we were there on this last trip, we were getting there half an hour to 45 minutes early, and people were already there and in line. Like it was pretty crazy how busy it was at that point. And it's because people know more now. So
exactly,
I would definitely tell my enemy 10 o'clock. And for sure that noon to 3 time is perfect time. It gets hotter at that point. So make sure you're hitting all the rides then. Which that's my new thing. For those of you that haven't watched or listened before, my new thing is that noon to 3 o'clock is a great time to take a break. Whether it's going back to your hotel for a break at the pool or a nap, whatever it may be, or even just having that sit down meal in the park. You know, I don't typically like to do things like that. I'm an open to close guy, but this last trip, it was very apparent that noon to 3 is a very busy time. And even Disney's Genie, as terrible as it is, was telling me it's not worth it. Wait until after 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, you know, for my worst enemy, noon to 3, have at it, buddy.
Yeah, so I guess you would be telling your worst enemy like, "Oh, you really want to like get all of the rides you want to ride in from noon to 3." Because it's completely the opposite. You want to rope drop as well as you can, and then you want to from that noon to 3 time kind of like chill or find something else to do, and then after 3 o'clock you start hitting rides again. So yeah, I think that would be a good one. Is to tell them to do the most between 2 and or noon to 3. That would be a good one.
Yeah, I think anything like that is going to be a great one. Another thing I would do, and I know I'm jumping right back in, but I'd also tell them, make sure you leave the park as soon as the fireworks are over. You gotta get out of there.
Yes, that's a good one. Yeah, just follow everybody out. Everyone's leaving. You just gotta leave.
Yeah,
that's a good one. And it's funny because watching like live streamers and stuff like that, people. I mean, it's like they have literally found ways to like circumvent that, because what happens is you get into those like herds, and they literally herd you out. Like it's just like follow this way. And so a lot of these people who are experienced know kind of like the different ways to circumvent that and like get around and get back into the park. Typically my wife and I are just kind of going upstream because we're just like pushing through it. So that typically happens to us. But yeah, following anytime you see a herd at Disney, really, don't follow it. Like don't follow the herd, because Disney knows where to put you. Like they know where they want to put all of the people. So they're doing it on purpose. So
yeah, and my trick after fireworks is to give it 5 or 10 minutes. Just stay where you are. And, if someone wants to get by you, fine, let them get by you. But stay where you are, relax a little bit. Now after Happily Ever After, they play the music, the entire Happily Ever After song, the full version, after the fireworks are over. Stand there, enjoy that, take it in. And then when the crowd finally disperses a little bit, head for another ride. Because why at that point do you want to follow that herd or be stuck in that herd only to get in line for a bus, a boat, a monorail?
Yep.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah. So it looks like we've got our first comment. First comment on our first live is coming from Tammy Lewis, it looks like. And she says, I would tell my enemy to skip the safari. It's just like the zoo. You've seen one giraffe. You've seen them all. That's pretty good. I feel like that can go for all of Animal Kingdom, kind of. We're like, oh, you can just skip Animal Kingdom because it's a zoo. It's like just a zoo. It's like your typical zoo. And they actually had that campaign of it's not a zoo. And that like they were like that was like a word that they were is not a zoo or something like that. So yeah, that would be a good thing to tell your enemy, is to skip the safari because it's just a zoo. Which the safari is really amazing. Everything you can do on the safari and everything you see on the safari is really cool. And it's funny, I used to be in the camp of just like, if you can't get in early, just skip the safari. And I've been on a couple safari rides not early that have been really awesome. So I'm definitely team safari. Not that I've ever been like team anti-safari, but like I'm definitely team safari now, with like just like get in there and do it, because it's a lot of fun seeing all the animals and everything. So
yeah, and they do a good job of trying to keep them moving and interesting. The middle of the day is a tough time because the sun is hot at that point and they just want to stay cool. And as well they should, right? But it's it was really good when we got to go in the afternoon, that late afternoon. I think it was 4 o'clock or so, wasn't it? We had just finished with Festival of the Lion King, and walked over there. I don't know how, but we walked right on.
Yeah.
But the amount of animals walking around was really cool. The giraffes were kind of hiding at that point. I'm not sure what that was about, but there were other types of animals out that you wouldn't see in the morning. So they do rotate them as well, so that you get a different view of, a different set of animals to enjoy. So I thought that was fun.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just the kind of that like Animal Kingdom is a zoo, don't go. Like there's so many cool things that you can do there. And the thing, I personally think that just the way all of the ideas that were put into Animal Kingdom and like the way that it was constructed, is like the best out of all the parks. It is kind of zooey sometimes. So I feel like there are parks that I like better, but like just the thought that was put into it and the theming and everything that's there. I love Avatar Land now. That place is awesome. Land. I always call it Avatar Land.
It's Avatar.
Everything
Land.
is a land. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely not a zoo. So
I agree. There are parts of it that is zoo-like, but there are so many experiences that are different than you might get in a zoo. And I'm not talking about the rides or the shows or anything like that, but those trails that they have, the Gorilla Trail and the Maharaja Jungle Trek, like they're different experiences than you might see in any kind of zoo out there. Which brings to the point, yesterday they announced the legends that were going to be inducted in August at the D23, I don't know, Ultimate Fan Event, I guess they're calling it. And Joe Rohde is on that list. 40 years with the company, and he's finally on this list. And I think that's nice. It's due. When I saw his name on there, I kind of thought he's not.
Yeah, right.
By now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, they've got Miley Cyrus on the list. I don't know what she's doing for Disney nowadays, but I know she did Hannah Montana, and I feel like that's not enough of a resume.
I mean, well, okay, this isn't the. We'll have a separate stream to talk about this, but like when you think about what Hannah Montana did for Disney Channel, like that was like one of the bigger major TV shows to like hit Disney Channel. So like I get it, but we can have that discussion later.
Come on, it's tangent time.
Oh yeah, we haven't had a good. All of our tangents so far have been kind of focused, so we've been doing a good job. We haven't gone on a complete like now we're talking about something else tangent. So that's good.
That's true.
And that kind of, so I wanted to bring up my next one because
if I could, congratulations to Joe Rohde. I never did get that out. So
yes, he can. I can congratulate him over and over again for all of the things that he's done, except for not fixing the Yeti.
I did put. I don't know I don't remember which platform, but I put under it, does this mean he's coming back to fix the Yeti?
Yeah, right. I wonder if he's gonna like do a keynote and that's gonna be part of it. Like we're fixing the Yeti or something like that. That would be cool.
That would be awesome.
But my next one kind of feeds into the Animal Kingdom part, and that's skip Epcot. And what that would be is I'm talking to people my age without kids who really enjoy drinking. They love pretty much anybody from Wisconsin. Just tell them to skip Epcot. It's super childish. Like you won't like it. Like Yeah, that's what I would tell my worst enemy if I knew them in that way, where I know that they like alcohol, they like more adulty things. I would tell them to skip Epcot.
I don't know if I can get behind that one. There is things that you can tell them to do at Epcot, like the China movie, or like you have to see Impressions de France. There's good stuff, I guess, that you could also tell them to do in Epcot. I think my wife would tell somebody to definitely ride Spaceship Earth because she doesn't like that. But
Really?
yeah, but let's not make enemies here either. But
Yeah, it's I don't know. I've had discussions with people in the past about their trips, and most of the time, if they're like of the drinking age and like they enjoy their alcohol and their beers, usually they're like, "Oh my God, Epcot was amazing." They just rant and rave about Epcot. And most of the time, people complain about how like kid friendly Disney is. And that's typically the tip that I give them is like, hey, there are things out there at Disney that are meant for adults. And Epcot is like one of the bigger ones, especially with its festivals and stuff like that. And so, yeah, that was kind of like where my head was at. That was just kind of like don't go to Epcot if you enjoy alcohol or beer, because there's none there.
it's that's a slippery slope to tell them what to do with skipping a park, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm thinking telling them like when you do rope drop, you need to go to the Mad Tea Party right away.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit to get back there, but make sure you get back to the Barnstormer because that one gets a long line right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And rope drop, if you're going to be at Hollywood Studios, you definitely need to get to Alien Swirling Saucers first.
Yeah, telling your enemy to rope drop incorrect rides is pretty hilarious. However, I was thinking about this one about like rope drop, how like because everybody's always like what should I do for rope drop? I think I recently planned out a morning for a friend and was just like you want to go do this and do this, and this has a long line, go do this, and that's what they wanted. They wanted how what should we hit? Like how should we do the park? So I planned out a rope drop for them, but one of the things I said was avoid Mine Train because that's the line that everybody's getting in. The only time I ever tell somebody like go for Mine Train is when they are the absolute first person in line. Like if they are at the rope for rope drop, if they're staying at a hotel and they're at the rope drop for rope drop, go for it. Like go for Mine Train because you'll be like the first group. But if you're not, just figure it out later or don't ride it. Like there are often times where we don't ride Mine Train, just because like it always gets like that crazy long line. But it's like that's the ride that everyone gets in line for, and that line always gets long. And it's kind of the same way with Peter Pan. Like there are times where on rope drop, the line for Peter Pan will be ridiculous, like right away, like on rope drop. So I guess that was something that I was thinking of too. So I guess for me, I would tell my enemy to like, oh, Mine Train is the most popular ride. At rope drop, try to get in line right away. Knowing that most likely they probably wouldn't be like the absolute front of the line. So I feel like that's something that I would say because that's typically something I avoid, unless like the perfect storm happens.
Yeah, it's interesting because we did the rope drop on a Wednesday and we were not at the rope. We were a little bit further back than I would have liked. But we still went for Mine Train, and it ended up being about a half an hour wait. And we were so it got to the point where, they start wrapping it around towards Little Mermaid, as the line gets longer. So it's doing that, but everyone had started walking towards the entrance, had to turn around and then wrap back into the line.
Yep.
And as you're doing that, people are like jumping in line. So here we are. We've got the wheelchair and everyone coming along. And I think the wheelchair was in front of me. My daughter was pushing it, and I was just we were all trying to get into the line, and she could not get past and get into the line. I finally just cut across and got a spot in line, and then they were able to jump in with me. And that's another trick. It's in itself. When it starts doing that, like, you either need to get in it immediately or find something else.
Yep, exactly.
It's just going to keep going, and it's going to take longer and longer and longer. So like I said, it took us about half an hour. We were still we were moving. Like, it wasn't like we were standing. We were moving pretty good. So that was nice that we got it done in half an hour. I wasn't ready for that at all. I did experience that with Rise of the Resistance as well out in Disneyland, where you come in, but they wrap it the other way. So everyone's going and they're jumping in line, kind of wrapping it into a line. And over there, it probably would have been better to go around the other way and come in, land that way. But it's something like, like you said, like, if you're not at the rope when it drops, so you could tell your enemy, yeah, early entry starts at 8:00. You want to get there at 8:00. Make sure you're in the park at 8:00.
Yeah.
And then they're at the back of that, and they get in line for Mine Train, and they're waiting an hour and a half. I mean, you could get them on that too.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a good one. What's your next one? I think I've gone like twice in a row now.
Well, the rope drop was mine. I just
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'm next. And this one's kind of a funny one because, like, this happens to me often. But it's if you're going in January, you just bring swim trunks. Like, that's all you got to bring. Just like shorts, t-shirt, swim trunks. That's all you need.
The weather's beautiful.
It never gets cold in Florida. It's Florida. That would be honestly, thinking about it, that would be the worst thing to do to somebody, is like, oh, what's the weather like in Florida in January? Oh, it's hot all the time. You're never going to be cold. Never, ever. And it's funny because, like, this is what we've been hitting recently. Like, when we go during those, like, colder months, there are times where, like, you need a sweater. There have been times that I've been at Disney that, like, I needed a jacket. So it can get actually pretty cold. So telling your worst enemy that it's always nice, it never rains, it's always nice, you never have to worry about anything, just shorts and a t-shirt, that would definitely be like one of the things I would tell my enemy.
That's a good one. I would think another one that you could do is leaving the park and take a bus to Disney Springs in the middle of the day, like going back to that break thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, go to Disney Springs in the middle of the day. Like, that takes forever to do that. In fact, I think that would be a great thing for people to start doing at that noon to 3 time. Can you, everyone, please just head out?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something I hear from people all the time. And I think it's like, I don't know, like, once you get older and you're trying to, like, enjoy things more, like, it makes sense to do, where like leave the park in the middle of the day. And so I see people doing that all the time. And it's also different for us now because we're annual pass holders. So, like, it feels different to be able to just, like, leave and you're, like, not necessarily wasting money or wasting time. but yeah, that still seems like something like, oh, go take the bus to Disney Springs, and then take the bus from Disney Springs back to your hotel, and go in the pool, like taking up all of this time of your park day to get back to the park, like basically just for fireworks. Saying that though does sound kind of fun. Like sounds like something that I would do now. But if you're trying to like open to close, like you're trying to do the park, get as much as you possibly as you can out of the park, like that's not something you want to do, especially because of transportation.
And yeah, taking a bus somewhere takes forever because you might just miss one, and really they only come every 20 minutes.
Yep.
So there's 20 minutes lost, and then could be up to an hour. Well, no, maybe not an hour of drive time, but it could be up to another half an hour of driving around, depending on where you're going, what you're doing, and then to do whatever you're doing in Disney Springs, turn it around and do all that back again. I mean,
yep,
that would be great. People would just do that.
Exactly. So yeah, that would be a good one, is to just like waste all that time on transportation and leaving in the middle of the day. Which, saying that, like, may be something I end up doing anyways. But being annual pass, it hits different. So
true, it does. So I don't know. Maybe you just need to get rid of that annual pass. No, I hope that someday I can get to that point. There are a lot of people out there that have that ability. I'm kind of feeling like I'm going there enough now that I'm able to start doing that. Where I might not do open to close.
Right? Yeah.
But I don't know. The cheapskate in me is still gonna say, you paid for this ticket.
You paid. That's the hard part, is paying for the tickets and then not using like every possible minute, because tickets are expensive.
They are. Yeah. And I'm sure you feel some of that though with your annual pass too. Like you need to use it enough to make it worth it, right?
Yep. Yeah, and well, that's the thing, is we've noticed that like that's really easy to do with the way that we go to Disney and everything. Like it's already paid for. Like we've already used our annual pass enough for it to pay for itself. So it makes sense for us. And it's crazy to think about like how people live in Orlando and use their annual pass. It's like, if that were us, it'd be paid for like in 2 weeks, pretty easily.
Right.
So yeah,
it would be easy to pay it off but if I was living down there, it would be, let's go to, I don't know, let's go to Magic Kingdom and have cheeseburgers, spring rolls for dinner.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. Just pop in. Yeah.
Right.
That's goals right there. That's what I want to have happen.
Goals.
So this is a rather specific one, and this is one that I learned recently. And this is, I would tell my enemy to stay at the All-Stars during the cheerleader competition week.
Oh. Which we learned a little firsthand how crazy it is with all
we learned the hard way that you don't go to Disney during the cheerleader competition week. Yeah.
I thought we were not staying at an All-Star, so we would be fine. But those parks were crazy.
Yeah. And they were they were really everywhere. And it's like, like, obviously, like, they're having fun. They're on their trip. You guys do you. But they're a typical high school that, like, the kids, it's funny, like, we would get off rides and we would see all of their backpacks lined up, like, along a wall, because they all just went onto the ride. So it's like they're just all in, like, these groups everywhere, and it seemed like it just never stopped. Like they were just always everywhere. So that was definitely one that I circled the dates next year to not go during the cheerleader competition. And we still made it work. Like it wasn't the worst. It wasn't like the most busy I've ever seen it. But still, it was hard to just like navigate the parks with all of that going on. And just knowing that they always kind of just show up and take over the All-Star resorts. I'm sure we weren't even in an All-Star. So I can only imagine what that was like during that time, because they had pretty much taken over the parks. So
yeah, and when we did Animal Kingdom that first day, I don't know, I was taken aback by how busy it was. I didn't think it was going to be that crazy, and we had to really kind of punt on our plan and try to figure out what to do. Well, first of all, it's been a long time since I walked into a park 2 hours after opening. And then we were able to watch the parrot show when it started, when we first came in. That was part of the plan. But then it was like, oh my gosh, these wait times are crazy. And we ended up doing It's Tough to Be a Bug was our first thing.
Yeah.
Because it was only a half an hour wait. So it's something that cheerleaders, man. You were in the parks on Tuesday and you're like, I am circling this on a calendar. We're never coming during cheerleaders again.
Never again. Yeah. And so, and people say that a lot about the All-Stars, like avoid the All-Stars because that's where all the groups go. And this was really the only unlucky time that I've ever been in Disney while like something like that was going on. I've never really felt the groups at all, because I know they're kind of everywhere and they're always happening, because there's always like high schools doing trips and everything. But that was the first time where I really felt the groups. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I have exhausted my list. Where are you at, Mikhailo?
I've got one more.
Okay.
And this one is kind of like, it's a pretty big one. And the last thing that I would tell my enemy is, don't go to Disney. It's just for kids. That's the last thing that I would say is just don't go to. It's just for kids. Like, why would you want to go to Disney? It's just for kids.
Don't bother.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no height requirements there, so it's all made for kids.
Yeah.
That's spoken like a true Disney adult right there.
Yeah, right?
That makes me think of the memes I would see that say like, tickets are half price on February 30th and 31st this year.
Yeah.
Make sure you go then. Yeah, because I mean, if we could get people to listen and say not go, think of how nice these parks could be.
Right? Exactly. We need to start spreading the fake news about all the things that you need to not do at Disney. So.
Yeah. I remember the first time I got to go and I was running those parks, there was like nobody in them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just running from thing to thing to thing because it was dead. And I wish we could get back to that a little bit.
Yeah. And part of me feels, I feel both sides where it's like, Disney's busy, Disney's doing well. Yay, we're going to get more cool stuff, and the parks will do well. On the other hand, I don't want to have to deal with crowds all the time, because like it's gotten to a point now where there really isn't a down season. People say that all the time, and I think honestly, Disney does it on purpose. Disney has situated things happening throughout the year that there's always a reason to be going to Disney. Right. It's never just bring your kids during break. Like there's always a reason to be showing up. So.
Very true. Well, I think that was a pretty darn good list. I think we've found ways to make our enemies even mad at us. So I want to remind everybody we're here live on Thursday nights, 7:00, recording our episodes that will come out every Tuesday. or you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps. It's here on Facebook, and it's here on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, everywhere you want to find it. So make sure you go and like and subscribe on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button on the Apple Podcast or whatever podcast app you're using. And for sure, go and subscribe on YouTube. Come back next week live. We want to hear your comments. Mikhailo, this has been a good one.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I'm excited to do more and more lives with everybody. But
Me too.
like we always say, some live close,
But others don't.
so let's talk about it. We'll see you guys next time on Miles from Main Street.